Hi everybody, my name's Rosie. Hope you're all well. Happy Tuesday. It's very cold. Hopefully this will warm us up. So if you've seen my sessions before, you'll know that I quite like throwing glitter and sequins at stuff. So we're going to do more of that today. Hope that's okay. My sessions usually involve sequins and glitter. I've done a few very similar to this before, but I've tried to make this kind of Christmas based, and hopefully you'll understand why. If you've done any of the sessions before that are kind of decorative, that again use sequins and glitter, then this will be quite similar. So hopefully this will feel a little bit easier because you'll have done some of the same sort of things before. But the kicker to this is that I'm hoping that we can make these into the sort of decorations that, first of all, you could put on a Christmas tree. But second of all, I thought we could make something that you could like hide a present in. I thought that would be really cute. So the idea came from, so I don't know if any of you came to my last session, which was the kind of Mexican inspired Halloween decorations, which is where we drew into the tinfoil and we did those sort of designs. This time, because when I was like researching it and looking at like the different kind of Mexican like kind of folky decorations that you can get, a lot of these kind of Matchbox shrines came up. So I know I've done the sort of like shadow box shrines before, but the Matchbox shrines are essentially, it's like the inside of a matchbox that's been decorated, and they're just beautiful. So I thought, why don't we kind of recreate that, but do it in such a way that could be used for Christmas, and such a way that you can maybe hide a little cheeky little present in there. So here are a few examples, and then we'll get to work with making a few more. So first of all, here's Dolly. So Dolly I have made inside a little cardboard box. So the main thing here, if you're not doing it along today and you're just watching for ideas, the main thing to remember is that the box that you want to use needs to be quite shallow, because the deeper it is, the more space you've got to fill, and the harder it is to kind of get that kind of matchboxy vibe, if that makes sense. So as you can probably see, this box is quite shallow. So what I found is the best description of a box to use would be like a box that your phone comes in. Now, I know we don't buy phones very often, but that sort of size and shape is perfect. You could, loads of other stuff come in boxes like that, you just don't remember because we throw all our boxes away. But we're thinking those sort of boxes. So I've got two bits here. They came from the same box. No, they didn't. Hang on, I'm getting confused. This white one here is the bottom of this one that I've sort of pre-decorated. So that goes on top of that. So actually you can probably get two boxes in one. So this was a similar one. This had a lid at some point. I don't know what's happened to the lid. But the idea is that we decorate every single surface. So we decorate the edge and make it super extra. So what we've got is we've got shiny paper, we've got sequins, we've got fancy ribbon, we've got old book pages, and then we've got our picture here. Now for your picture, as you'll see in a minute, doesn't have to be of a famous icon. I mean, that would be great, because what a great gift. I mean, if you'd bought like a ticket for someone, so say you'd bought like a ticket for a show, you could print out a picture of the person that is of the show and make oh, what a beautiful decoration. I love Elton John. Thank you for making me an Elton John decoration. And then the idea is that we put this on the front, and then you can kind of bend it down and hide something inside. So you could maybe hide like the ticket inside, or if it's something little like a piece of jewelry, and then you can hang it on the tree as if it's a decoration. Nobody's any the wiser. And then on Christmas morning, you can go check out your decoration, have a little look in there and see what you can find. I mean, I've just very, not very carefully just sort of stuck the cardboard down, but you get the idea. That's kind of what we're going to try and do. So there's a couple of ways we're going to do this. So the boxes that I've just described, so again, you're looking at like a phone box, is perfect. It's shallow, it's the right sort of size, it's still going to hang on a tree, not too heavy, and you'll also get two out of it, so you can make two decorations. The other option is something like this, which I've managed to just pour a load of glitter into. See if I can blow the glitter out. So this isn't the sort of thing we could hide anything behind, but it looks beautiful. So this I have made out of like an old it's a really old like tobacco tin. So I've got the lid here, and I just got this from like an antique shop. It was £2, and I thought perfect because I can use both sides. So I think you'll probably find these sort of tins at cart boot sales. You'll find them in charity shops. You'll find them in antique shops, and they're still quite cheap. And I really like this because you've got the silver. Sorry, bashing my camera there. You've got the silver in the background, which means you don't need to do anything to it because it looks great as it is. And then for this one, this is just supposed to be a beautiful decoration. I have used a printout of my grandma, and I'm going to give this to her tomorrow when I see her, to hang up. She can do whatever she wants with it. But yes, I quite like this. You've probably noticed. I like doing really bright, garish colours, lots of glitter, lots of sequins, but I think that works really nicely with a black and white photo. So you'll notice that all the pictures I'm using are black and white. And I've just stuck her in there, and then I've decorated the edge of this tin with just madness, really. But I just think it looks beautiful, and I think hung up on a tree, if I show you on this camera, will look perfect. So we're going to have a go at both of those today. So I'm going to pop those to one side, and I might keep referring back to them. So if you can't find a vintage tobacco tin, which you might not have readily available, I've also noticed that something like this might work quite well. So this is an old Lush pot. So it's like it was a body lotion. Once upon a time, it was a body lotion. No pun intended. And I thought that looks like a similar size to the tobacco tin. You could use either side you wanted, but I think what I've worked out is actually the lid is probably the best bet. You're not going to get anything behind it, but what you've got is a nice you've got a nice flat bit that you can stick your picture on, and then you've got a nice edge here that you could put some sequins on. So you can make these as simple or as crazy as you like. So something like this we could put loads of stuff on, and something like this can be quite simple, but we'll use the same materials. Yes, kids can get involved too, absolutely. My kids always want to get involved if there's glitter or sequins there, for sure. So yeah, they could definitely get involved. What a perfect present if your kid was to make it and it was like a family photo, and you were to present it to a grandparent or, you know, an auntie or something on Christmas Day. You're going to win all the prizes. You're going to be the best of the best. So let's get started. I'm going to move everything to one side because I've got some sort of like, here's one I made earlier, because we'll have to wait for paint to dry and things like that. So I'll pop those to one side. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to get started on, maybe we'll use the lid of the tobacco tin because that's quite fun. And what I've got here is a little circular face of Debbie Harry. I thought she would be nice. And I've got a few others here. So we've got Billie Holiday, Kate Bush, Polly from Peaky Blinders, and Grace Jones. All wonderful female icons, which make perfect Christmas decorations. So let's start with this box, which has loads of glitter in it, of course. So the only problem with these sort of sessions is everything will get covered in glitter. My whole house is covered in glitter. So we're going to start with the shallow box, and I'm going to use a selection of paint and pen, I think, probably mostly paint. Now, I always say this on these sessions that you're best to use acrylic paint. Acrylic paint will go down better. It's got a higher pigment, so it's a stronger colour. If it's a cheap acrylic, you might have to do a few layers because they're not as pigmented. And if it's an expensive acrylic like I have, then it will probably go down in one or two. But that's not a problem if you don't need to buy fancy stuff. If you buy cheap acrylic, so for example, this stuff, if I just lean over to my wall of art, so this stuff, this is like really cheap acrylic paint from, I think, the range. I think it was like a £5 for six colours, I want to say. And I used this red on this inside of this box, and I maybe did 2 or 3 layers. So it really doesn't have to be fancy. I just use this fancy Liquitex stuff for like other crafts that I need it for. This stuff is like £6 for a very small bottle. So this is the good stuff. But I'm going to use this today mainly for sort of time purposes. Hopefully you've all got tons of time Now we're getting to Christmas. None of us are busy at all, are we? So the way I would sort of look at this, the way I would approach this, is look at every single surface differently. So you've got to imagine you've got your flat bit at the back here, you've got your edges on the inside, and you've got your edges on the outside. You don't need to, I'm not decorating the back, you can do if you want. One of the options would be to paint the back a sort of lighter colour, and then you could write a message on it, which would be really nice. But you're not going to see the back, so you don't have to do it. But the reason that I'm saying approach it this way is because each edge can have a different element involved. So for example, one edge could be colour, one edge could be glitter, one edge could be like an old book page, one edge could be fancy ribbon, one edge could be sequins. So it's just thinking about all those elements and throwing all of them at it, but doing it in a kind of structured way. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the background, and I think what I'll probably do is paint the edges the same as well, but I might change them because I might add some glitter to them. So I'm going to go straight in with, I think I'm going to go in with this lovely pink, because I've not used this. Have I used this pink yet? Well, I might have done, but I love it because it's a nice bright pink. I find that these sort of flat brushes are the best for this sort of painting because you get nice coverage. This lovely, it's kind of a mermaid effect brush, has been stolen from my 5-year-old, but she's at school, so she doesn't need to know. And then essentially, I'm just going to go in and start painting. Now, what you'll notice with most of these sorts of boxes is that they have a shiny surface. So they're not like, they're cardboard, but they have been sort of coated and stuff. So at this point, I would just really like take your time, really smooth out those edges. But what you'll find when you're painting is that you're probably not going to get it done in one coat, simply because this shiny surface is sort of fighting against the paint. And you can probably already see, look, it's not a super block colour. So that's why we're definitely going to need more than one coat. If you want to be really careful, you could do these edges a different colour if you fancied it. I'm not going to today. We don't have enough time. But the option's there. I think I might have done it. Have I done it on any of the others? No, I haven't. I think all the others I've done all edges and background the same. But I will do the outside edge different. And hopefully you can see me painting all those edges. And that's why these flat brushes are great, because they get really good coverage for this sort of surface. And because they're flat, it means you go in at the corners and just pull up like that, and it's really quick and easy, which means doing a few layers won't take too long. Now, I wonder if my heating's on. If my heating's on, I might be able to put this on the radiator so it dries really quick. That would be nice. I mean, let's face it, it's probably not. I am quite cold. Okay, so what I'm also going to do, so what you'll find with these boxes is you'll have a slight lip on the top. I think you're always best just to go over that with your first colour, because then it's done. So you're just going to go around really quickly, and you're probably going to have to do this again when you do your next layer. It just means when it comes to the edges on the outside, if you're like I might put some like book pages on it, it means that this bit isn't going to be white. I think the main rule to this is we don't want anything on show that is white. We want lots of bright colours, lots of contrasting colours, lots of colours that don't necessarily go together. That's what we're going for. Okay, so those edges are all done. There's no point going over that again now because it's still wet, and you're just going to sort of like swoosh it around. So I'm just going to reach over to my radiator and have a little feel. No, that's not. No, I'm going to put it on there anyway because it's a good surface. So I've just popped that on a radiator that's not on, just so it can dry for a few minutes. But in the meantime, what we can do is we can have a look at our other options. So, for example, the inside of this tin. So this is the lid. So the actual lid itself is quite beautiful because it's very old. So you could leave that as it is. And then what we could do is we could just paint the inside. I think we'll do that. But I'm just wondering, actually, because the inside isn't shiny, whether we go for a nice glittery effect. Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to go in with a colour. I'll go in with this green, I think. So I'll move that pink out of the way. honestly, you should see, there's a reason that this camera is pointing at this area, because the rest of it is a mess. Okay, let's get another paintbrush. So I'm going to get another flattish one, and I'm going to go in with this lovely emerald green, which is quite Christmassy. And again, because this is metal, it's not going to go on in one go. You're going to have to do a few layers, which is why I've got some, here's some I made earlier. If you don't have any acrylic paints, or you don't like using paints because they're quite messy, then I would go for the option of using cutouts of paper for these, because all you would need to do, for example, with this one, and I'm going to do some in a minute on the box, but all you would need to do for this one is sort of draw around the circle itself and then cut it out, and then you'd probably have to cut it out again to make it slightly smaller, and you could hopefully fit it in there and just stick it in with glue. So you could do that with like an old book page, or if you're into sort of like decoupage, if you have those like sheets of like different patterned paper, or if you've got a really big picture like photograph, you could or print out something like that. So you don't have to use paint for any of this if you don't want. All I would say is if you're using a cutout of paper, then you might want to throw more sequins at it to brighten it up. So that's one layer of that. Just go over it again a little bit with more, but it's just going to sort of wash it out a bit. And then we'll leave that. So that's been done really quickly. I'm going to go back to my pink box. This chair has wheels on it. It's quite temperamental. So I'm going to go back to this pink box. It's still drying, so I can't do the pink layer yet. But what I can do is I can start to think about these edges. So I'm going to move the paint out of the way into this very messy area that you can't see, that's full of stuff. We'll very carefully put those paintbrushes down. And so what I'm going to do is, there's a few different options, as I've said. So I've got this old, you've probably seen this in my old sessions, this old Vanity Fair that was from a charity shop, cost me £1. And I mean, bear in mind, I use this a lot. So I use this in loads of these sessions. I also use it for making like old notebooks. I've still got hundreds of pages left. So all I'm going to do is rip out a page. Oh, I've ripped out 2 pages. I'm probably not going to need to. Now, you can be really, really careful with this, or if you're more like me and you want to do it quickly, I'm going to fold it. So one recommendation is to place the side of the box onto the paper and draw around it and then cut that out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the corners of the page so that I don't have to do as much measuring, like so. I'm going to hold it up and then I'm sort of going to fold it around the bottom like that. And you can see that that's where that corner lies. So now I can sort of see that bend. I'm going to fold it all the way down and make sure that it's straight with this bit, because then you know it's at a right angle and that it's nice and straight. So then we can cut that edge off with our scissors, and we know that it's going to be the right length. And then what we can do, which is quite clever, is we can then fold the bottom bit so we get the right width that way. And I'm going to fold that carefully so it's nice and straight. And then what I'm going to do, because I'm so clever, is if I then fold it here, I'm going to get 2 so I can do both sides. So if I fold that there, like so. So then these first 2 folds are either side of your box. That's sort of like maths, isn't it? A little bit. And then I'm very carefully, now again, if you want to be a bit more precise with this, you could draw the line with a pencil so you can see it a bit better. But I'm just going to go in and cut on the fold. The thing I really like about sort of Mexican folk art and this sort of decorative pieces is they are quite cut and paste. I've got quite a few bits from Mexico that are And you can tell that they're handmade, and that's what I like about them. So the whole idea, you don't have to be precise, you can just throw stuff at it and stick stuff on it. And that's kind of the idea. It looks like that in real life, and I think all the better for it. So hopefully these are going to fit really nicely on here. Yeah, that'll do, won't it? Nothing wrong with that. So then all I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck some glue on it. I keep saying chucking stuff, but I don't actually mean that. I mean, we will chuck glitter at stuff. So again, you could put your PVA, this is just standard, like kids PVA from the works, 250. I've had that for ages. You could put your PVA into a little bowl and do it that way, but I've just thrown it straight on there because why not? And I'm going to just make sure that the whole area has coverage so that it sticks the whole way. Now, the only thing, we'll see what happens here, but the only thing with painting and you putting glue onto shiny surfaces like this box, for example, is that things resist sticking to them. So what you'll find is that you'll maybe have to sort of like anchor it down. So for example, with this bit, I think it's going to be fine, but if you notice it start to sort of peel off at the edges because this box is shiny, you just maybe need to hold it down like that. So what you could do is when we do this other side, we might put something on it just to hold it down. So like a book or something like that. Okay, so just spread that out like that. And hopefully, once I've done this, I might be able to go in with another pink layer because I'm really keen to sort of get full coverage of this so you can see it. Okay. Let's stick that down. And the great thing about PVA is because it's quite watery, you can move it around until it's in the right place. Perfect. So now we've got our pink inside, which needs another layer, but it's definitely drying slowly but surely. And then we've got our two book edges. So you could do the top two with books as well. I'm going to stick some ribbon on it as well. But I'm going to do something slightly different. Now, there's a few different options. I have got somewhere this like holographic shiny sticky paper. So this was from that app that everyone talks about called Temu, and it's really, really cheap, but you can get this in any shop. You don't have to use this, you can just use glitter, but I'm just letting you know that this stuff is out there if like glitter is a bit too messy for you. So although it just looks like a sheet of holographic paper, you can actually peel it off and it's sticky. So on this one, I will show you. You can see this has got this on either side, and I've literally just cut out, like we've just done with the book pages, but on the holographic paper, and then stuck it on. So that's a really simple fix. Like that's a really quick way of doing it. If you got yourself a few different types of shiny paper that's sticky, that prevents you from having to do any of the painting or any of the glittering. So that's a really good option if time is an issue or you don't want to get too messy. But I think what I'm going to do, because I don't need to show you how to cut out bits again, because we've already done that with that. So I think we'll perhaps do some glitter on the top. Now, I think I'll do the glitter on the top, but I'm not going to do the bottom. The reason being is I'm really scared of getting loads of glitter in this pink stuff that's still wet. So if you were doing it at home yourselves, you would ideally wait for things to dry before you went on to the next level. But I'm just going for it. So I'm going to put some more glue on, just the same as I did with the book pages. I've got really gluey fingers now because I'm not very careful. The last time I did something like this, I did, if any of you saw it, I did the like the picture frames, the shadow boxes, which was a quite similar kind of setup to this in the way that we used like glitter and sequins. But because it was like a picture frame, I used some super glue in some of it to get some stuff really held down nice. But the super glue I had was terrible and it leaked. And so whilst I was talking to you about how to stick things down, my fingers were sticking together really badly. That was days and days I had super glue on my fingers after that. In fact, I got some like stuck in this ring here. So I was like having to like peel off super glue off my ring. Oh, occupational hazard. Okay, so I've got my glue on there. And we'll go for, what have I not used yet? I might go for gold, you know. So glitter, let's talk glitter if you've not been to one of my glittery sessions before. This is from Hobbycraft. This is quite cheap, but I would recommend getting yourself to the range. The range have a wide range of glitter, and this stuff is like, look how big that is. It's huge. This will last you a lifetime. And these are like, I think less than a £5, and they're massive. I think they're like £2.50 or something crazy. So yeah, if you want glitter, the range is the place to be. So I'm going to shake this all over, and actually, can you see let's angle it downwards. That makes more sense. I'm just going to angle it downwards because I don't want to get it on the pink. But like I say, you're going to be patient with yourselves, aren't you? And don't worry about spillages, because it's going to happen with glitter. And it depends how good you're feeling. You could either swipe it up and put it back into the pot, or throw it in the bin. So what we've got here, we've got a troubleshooting section here, because what you'll find with shiny surfaces is they will kind of lose some of the glue, like the glue will almost like move away from itself, and then you'll get these little edges where you can't see the glitter. The reason is it's not stuck because there's no glue there. So all you need to do is just go over those edges with some more glue, and then just make sure you get your coverage with the glitter again. It's a bit messy, but it's worth it for the sake of like not seeing any white underneath, because I think that then makes it's like, once you can see the box underneath, that kind of ruins the illusion a bit, I think. So chuck a load of glitter on those bits again. There we go. That's much better coverage. That you got a nice block of gold there. And I don't think I've got any glitter in the pink. Wonderful. I have got it all over the sides, but there you go. So now I'm going to go in again with the pink, just so we've got full coverage. Hopefully I won't need to do this again. I probably will, but we'll see. Hopefully it'll be clear enough for you to kind of get the idea. Yeah, that's going on much nicer now. So it's definitely worth letting it dry a bit. In fact, I would let this dry longer than I have, but I'm sort of just about getting away with it because I'm using this fancy acrylic. But you know, like all you need to know is you're not going wrong if it doesn't cover it up straight away. You just know that you need to let it dry and give it another go. It's the same as like when you're painting your house and you sort of there's certain areas where you just have to go over them again. And I think, yeah, this is a passable, I think, once I've done this second coat. And the other thing as well, this great thing about glitter, is if there's bits where you feel like you've gone wrong, or like the paint isn't working, or you've missed a bit with the paper, anything like that, we're going to throw loads of sequins at stuff. You know, we can put more glitter on stuff. Like, you don't have to worry about it. I'm really making this wobble, aren't I? I'm so sorry. Okay, we're nearly done with the coverage there. I did knock this, so a load of gold glitter came off it. So that's good, isn't it? Doing well today. There we go. So look, can you see there's a few like dots of white appeared? And the reason for that is because I've not let it dry. So again, what I would do is just plonk a few drips of glue on. Or if you had a pot of glue, then that would be easier. Just so that you can cover that up. Beautiful. And then just go over there with that, like so. There we go. So I think what's probably best for me to do at this point is just leave this alone for a bit and come back to it. So I'm just going to go over these edges. And now you've got an idea of like how much of the edges are exposed because we've covered the edges with paper. Then you can go over those bits and make sure that they're covered. Okay, that's looking good. Okay, so we've got that side, inside, top side. I would do the bottom side with glitter as well, but I'm not going to just because of time. So I'm going to pop this over here again onto my radiator. This is not warm. So now we've got a lovely table full of glitter. But what we can do is we can start thinking about our picture. and we can start thinking about extra decoration for our box. So here's my I made earlier so that I can show you what I mean. So first of all, we'll look at decorating the box. So you can see I've already stuck a few sequins on here. So we've got a few edges. So we've got the purple edges, we've done the glitter in the back here. So we've got to think about how we want to cover all of it, really. You've got to imagine what you can see and what's going to shine in the light. So I think shiny things on these side edges here are always good. Any kind of ribbon around here. So we'll just have a look at some ribbon really quickly. So we've got stuff like this is always good. So this is like edging. It's like edging for like clothes, and you can get these from most kind of markets that have fabric sellers will have stuff like this. This particular stuff was from the rag market in Birmingham. If you are near or in Birmingham, then that's the one. So I go with my friend Beth, who she makes like headdresses and like crazy stuff for festivals, and she buys tons of this stuff, and it's great because you can buy it by the meter. So it's quite an affordable way to do it, because if you're doing it for this sort of thing, you don't have to buy much. So you could buy a meter of like this is probably, I think it was probably like £1.50 for a meter, and that will last you a good few goes of this sort of thing. So yeah, you're looking at markets that have sort of fabric sellers. Some kind of like haberdasheries will do them, but they'll tend to be more money. If you've got like a local haberdashery that's not part of a chain, then they will be quite cheap if they have this sort of thing. Alternatively, if you've got access to sort of old clothes that you want to take the trimming off, then great. So I'd always encourage you to have a go at this sort of thing if you can find some, because it just, well, first of all it's easier because you're just sticking it on and it's really bringing everything to life. But second of all, it's like it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. So we've got stuff like this with sequins on. So if I get, let's see, you could also just get like a normal fancy ribbon. Just looking in my bag of wonders here, show you what the options are. So you could just go with, this stuff is easier to find because it's just ribbon, but just get the most kind of brightly coloured one. And all you would do is, so I'll do it on this one actually. So I'll do it for this. You just want to make sure that the edge of your ribbon is nice and straight and not too frayed. So I'm just going to give that a trim just to make it nice and clean on the edge. And I'm going to just hold it down so that I know exactly where it sits. Sort of don't stretch it too much, but give it a bit of a stretch. And then you're going to cut it in the place where it lands. And if you're going to do both sides, then what you can do is you can cut that as well, so that they're both going to be the same size. So I'm going to do that now. So this box for some reason has like a diagonal edge on it because it was trying to be fancy, but it should still be the same size. So I've cut my ribbon, so that's going to have to sit on a slight diagonal, but that's okay. It's just being a bit jaunty, isn't it? Now I'm not going to use super glue today because I don't want to stick my fingers together. And actually, I did use PVA glue to stick this one down, and it was absolutely fine. So you don't need to use scary super glue. You can use normal PVA glue, and just like me, you can just go along the edge like that. You don't need too much. And then you're going to stick it down, and because it's PVA, you've got a bit of wiggle room moving it around. And again, as I've said before, with like the paper peeling up, you might need to anchor this down while it's drying. So you might want to put some books on it while it dries. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to turn it over. So that's looking good. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. Stick that ribbon down. I'm going to do it this way so that the leaves are pointing upwards. And if you do have a bit of a frayed edge, don't worry, you can cut that off when it's stuck down, when it's dry. In fact, you could even stick a bit of PVA glue to stick it down if you wanted to. So then you've got those lovely ribboned edges, and they go really nicely with the colours as well, because we've got the reds and the purples and the pinks and the greens, and apparently loads of glitter on it now. So that's looking good. So then what we might do, again, you would probably wait for this to dry, but I'm going to start talking about sequins. So if I do this in a way that you can see it, I'm going to have to put it on its back, aren't I? That's fine. So sequins, I've got loads of different types of sequins. I've definitely spoke about them before. You can buy packs of random sequins in the pack. These were from the pound shop and they were £1. I think these ones were from Hobbycraft, and this is a massive bag and they were quite cheap as well. You just want a nice selection so that you don't have to be like, you know, conservative with your choices. You can just go crazy with them. So for example, in these kind of random boxes, let's just move that over there. Right, you can find some big ones, some small ones. So we might go for those, like these lovely green flowers are nice. What else have we got? Oh, there's loads of silver flowers. Maybe we'll get some of them out. They're nice. So the only fiddly thing about this is getting them out of the bag and getting the ones that you want out of the bag. I would recommend, if this is something that you struggle with, like dexterity with your fingers, pair of tweezers. A pair of tweezers are great for this sort of thing. What are we making today, Joanne? Let me show you very quickly. We're making sort of decorations that are inspired by sort of Mexican folk art, and it's sort of using like an old shallow box for something. We're decorating it like crazy with glitter and sequins. You could use a photo of like a music icon or someone famous that you've printed out, or a family member like this one. And the idea is that they will hang in your Christmas tree, but also if you use a box like this, you could hide a little gift behind it. So if it was like a piece of jewelry or something like that, but it will hang on your Christmas tree like so. Just something a bit extra and fun. So there you go. There's a recap on what we're up to. So we've just decorated our boxes and we're just adding the ribbon, and now we're going to pop some sequins on there. So I'm just choosing my sequins. Like I said before, if you struggle with like dexterity, then get yourself some tweezers to get your sequins out. It makes this whole shebang much easier. I think I'm spending too long on choosing the sequins, aren't I? I think what I should probably do is just crack on. But I'm going, oh, what colour shall I do? What sequin shall I get? It's because there's so much choice. So I've got 5 of those. I'm just seeing if I can find some more of these like big gold ones. I can't seem to, and it's I mean, it is like finding a needle in a haystack. So maybe what I'll do is, if I get something out that's a bit easier to find, like some of these gold. I mean, you don't have to be. I'm doing it on the basis that I would go one sequin, then another sequin, one sequin, then another. So you've got A, B, A, B, A, B. But you could go crazy. You could just do them in whatever order you so wish. I always try and use contrasting colours, especially compared to what the colour is on the cardboard. So if you've got red on there, then I'm not going to use a red or pink sequin because it won't show up as much. Anyway, let's crack on. I will just do maybe one side of this. Let's do this bottom side, and I'm already ruining this ribbon. So let's see if I pop it up on this, you'll be able to see, hopefully. Yes, there we go. So what I'm going to do is, on my very glittery surface, I'm going to use the silver flowers and the gold shells. And again, you can use a pot of glue with a paintbrush, or you can just go in like I am. I'll just do like a little dab with my glue and then go straight on the edge like so. Little dab. So the only thing about using PVA glue and sequins is that because PVA glue is quite watery and takes a while to dry, is that if you're doing these edges, one thing I would say, because I'm not going to do all the edges today because I don't have time, but just wait for one edge to dry before you move on to the next one. Because what will happen is, if you do this lovely line of sequins along here, which is looking great, if you then tip it that way, the glue hasn't dried enough and everything will slide off. So again, this is one of those ones where you need to give yourself a bit of time for things to dry. So yeah, when you're sticking sequins on edges, just let those edges dry first. I think that. I'm glad I remembered to say that, because I've definitely been caught out with that a few times. So I'm just going to shift these up a little bit so they all fit on. Now, you don't need to worry about moving things along and the glue showing because it will dry clear. So you can see there, you've got your lovely sequins along there. And then I'd wait for that to dry before I moved on to the other side. Again, the other thing you could do is you could think about your sort of symmetry in your sides. So you might mimic this side with your, so I've got the silver flowers and the gold shells. I might do that this side, and then on the top shelf, and then on these sides I might do something different. Or you could do the same all the way around. The other thing to consider is what picture is going in there. So I've got here's one I made earlier version, and I'm going to show you how to do this in a second. But you might want to think about how big the picture is going in. So I've got this lovely picture of Frida Kahlo, which I've decorated. Depending on how big it is, you might be able to decorate some of the back as well. So you'll notice on the Dolly Parton one that I've stuck some gems along the back, but I haven't done anything but that because you wouldn't really see it. So you've got to think about what you can see and what you can't see, and how much work you need to do to be able to see it all. So let's imagine we have done our sequins along here, and along here. We've got a ribbon on the edge. The other thing that we can use is gems. So we've got these lovely sticky gems. I've used these before. So these sheets, they come with like big gems, medium gems, little gems. They're looking a bit lackluster at the minute because I've used so many of them. So a sheet of these is £1 from Asda, and they're in the sort of kids craft bit. And I think they're great because they're really big and chunky and shiny. You can buy packs of gems on Amazon quite cheaply. I think they're about £3, and you'll get a few squares of different shapes. In fact, I can show you what they look like because I've got one of my shrines here. So, for example, you'll see on my David Bowie shrine, you've got some little gems on the edge. We've got some hearts. And then on the bottom, oh yeah, hearts as well. Yes, you've got hearts. And then you can get like squares and circles. And you'll buy a pack of those on Amazon. They're just called sticky gems. So now we're going to look at our picture while some of this is drying. So what you're going to need is a little bit of cardboard. And I'm going to, so I was going to put Debbie in the circle, but I'm not sure if we're going to have time. Let's have a look. Let's choose one of these guys. I think we're probably going to go for Kate Bush, you know, feels right. Maybe it's because the weather is cold and it feels like I should be singing Kate Bush on top of a windy hill. I'm going to move those sequins out of the way. Also, quite cleverly, I'm going to use this bit of cardboard just to sort of like shift some of this excess glitter that we've got going on. I'm a very messy worker, aren't I? So I've just got a piece of random cardboard here. Oh, Poundland do stick on gems as well. I've never seen the Poundland stick on gems. I'm going to have to go take a visit. I'm always interested in where people find their gems and glitter. It's the most exciting thing for me. So what you want is a piece of cardboard that is bigger than your box, but also you're going to cut it down. So don't worry too much. And I like the idea of using two different shapes. So if you're using a photo that is like a square or a rectangle, then you might want to consider making the shape behind it circular and vice versa. So I've got this picture of Kate Bush that's an oval, so I'm going to make the picture around it, the cardboard around it straight. So I'm not going to try very hard with this, so apologies if it's not very straight. But all I'm going to do, you might use a ruler if you're being clever. I don't have time. I'm just going to go for it. And I'm just going to give myself a nice border. See, already that's not very straight. And then let's say about there. Now I'm aware this isn't the straightest of rectangles, but that's okay. Let's not worry too much. Keep your excess cardboard because you're going to need that. And then you're going to think about your colours. For the purposes of time, I'm going to use a nice big Posca pen. So this is a blue one. Posca pens are really expensive, so if you don't have access to these, again, use your acrylic paint. You could use, at this point, actually, you probably could use like a felt tip pen. You could use like a Sharpie. It will just take longer because it's got a smaller nib. So the reason I'm using this is because it's nice and big and chunky and won't take me very long. But again, you can use your paint, but you'll just want nice thick coverage. so that you can't see any of the cardboard behind it. You might need a couple of layers. The great thing about these pens is they dry very quickly, so you're not having to wait around for things like we are with my acrylic paint and the pink box that we've done. I wonder how that's getting on. Oh, you have to be careful not to get your fingers leaving marks on this. But already it's drying, so you can sort of see how much quicker that is than using paint. And then all we would do is we would stick that down. But I'm just going to wait for that to dry just for a minute. I'm going to check up on my pink box. Looking good. It's looking nice. So what we could also imagine is that this one might go in here quite nicely. And while that blue bit's drying, because I do want to do another layer so I can stick the paint down nicely, is the cardboard bit that we would put behind it. So the order that I would do it was I'd get this completely finished like Frida. Frida's fallen on the floor, so I've just gone to retrieve her. So Frida's completely decorated now. So you've got the picture stuck down, which is basically what we're going to do here. And then I'm going to show you very quickly these dots, and then I've just added some sequins to it. So I would make all of this so that it is finished and complete. But whilst this is drying, I'm just going to show you very quickly what I would do to stick it down so that it's 3D. So remember I told you to save these bits of cardboard. So all I would do is cut myself a thin-ish strip. So I'm going to sort of say like that. What's that? A couple of inches? Nice long thick strip. And then what you can do is you can get your box and you can measure with the cardboard how wide or shallow the box is, so that you know it's going to sit. Now I'm trying to be careful here because of those sequins. Let's do it like this. So if I stick it in there, so with my finger, that's sort of how shallow it is. So I'll maybe fold it a little bit further in so it's not all the way to the front. And I'm just going to fold it and then cut off the excess. So you've got a right angle like that. And then all I'm going to do is turn Frida around, move you out of the way, and put it as central as I can get it. And then what I've got is this masking tape. So it's brown parcel tape that isn't shiny. I think this is the best stuff because it's really easy to use. You don't have to cut it, you can just rip it. But you can use any tape, doesn't matter what you use. But I would recommend tape over glue, just because stuff this is going to be required to sort of stand up on its own. And I just don't trust glue to do that well enough for me, especially not PVA glue. So that's why I'm using tape, because I trust it to withstand the test of time. So now that's taped down like that, and you've got that bit there. So that is then your picture. And what we would do, I don't want to do on this bit because I've put sequins there. I'm very silly. I could better turn it around that way. And then you can literally, this is the fiddliest bit, is you would then tape it to the bottom there. And then it would sit up like that. But I'm kind of trying to be really careful because this is all wet with stuff that I've stuck down. So we'll do that in a minute. But that's the idea of how that works. Hopefully that makes sense. Just watching, just keeping an eye on that while it's all drying. So I'll put Frida to one side, and then I'm going to go over this once more with the blue, so it's got a nice even colour. And again, you can take your time with this. I'm really rushing through this so I can show you everything. We're nearly done there. Yeah, this will dry nice and quickly as well. So at this point, we could stick Kate down, which I think we're going to, but I would like to show you this if you've not seen it before. This is quite exciting. So this is Mod Podge. This is used in decoupage, and it's like a glue. It's like PVA, fancy PVA glue, but this stuff has got loads of glitter in it, and it makes everything really shiny. So I've put it on this Frida here. I don't know if you can tell. I don't think this camera does it justice, but essentially I've gone over the blue with the pen, and then I've painted over with this glittery Mod Podge, so it's got like a glittery effect to it. and it's amazing. It's very expensive though, so if you can't afford or you don't want to go and buy an expensive pot of glittery glue, then just get yourself a bit of PVA and stick a load of glitter in it and stir it up. You're going to get exactly the same effect. But that's why I'm telling you about this, because you can make it yourself. But it looks great. It's a really good effect. So adding glitter to PVA glue gives this lovely shiny effect. The type of pen, this blue one here, so this is called a Posca pen. Posca pen is like a chalk pen. People use it for sign writing. I think they're originally created for sort of graffiti artists who needed to do like details, and they come in loads of different sizes. This is one of the thicker ones, and the idea is that they're like paint pens, so they work on anything. I use them for like wooden signs. You can put them on glass, anything you like. They're really, really useful pieces of kit. They've got very, very strong pigment in them, which means that they you don't have to go over it very often, but they are expensive. So this is a really thick one. I think one of these is probably like £4. You can buy packs of the smaller ones. If it's something you want to invest in, then I can wholeheartedly recommend them. I've got a box of 100 that cost me over £100, but they have lasted me more than 2 years. And I've taken them to workshops with children, and they're still working. So they are fantastic pens, and I couldn't recommend them enough, but they are expensive. Sometimes Hobbycraft will do deals on these pens, and you can buy like a box and they'll be 25% off, like a pack of 15 or something. If Hobbycraft are offering a sort of 25% off on the packs, then I would go for it, because you're not going to get it cheaper anywhere else. You can buy them singularly, like the smaller ones are probably like £3 each, £2.50 to £3. But yeah, they are pretty good, but they're expensive, which is why I'm saying you don't have to use these. You can use normal acrylic, and you can use cheap acrylic if you so wish. I don't want, this is why I like doing these sessions, is because I like to show people the sort of work that I do. And although I do have some of the fancier stuff, I can prove to you that you don't need the fancy stuff, and you can use whatever you like. So with that in mind, if you've added some glitter to your glue, you could paint that on top. But I'm just going to stick Kate down so I can show you something very quickly. So I have used a picture that I have put tape on, very silly of me. So it's quite shiny. So this is probably not going to stay stuck down very well. She's probably going to lift up at the edges. But at this point, again, I would stick a book on this and let it dry, walk away. But one of the things I want to do is decorate the edge. So you can use your sequins, you can use your glitter. We've been through all of that. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing with the glitter. But I just want to show you these guys really quickly. So these are, they're called dimensional fabric paint, but I don't use them for fabric ever. You can get these in most craft shops. Again, not super cheap, but they will last ages if you're using them for this sort of thing. And the idea is that it's paint that's kind of 3D looking and will dry 3D looking. So I have created that on the Frida here with these little dots. It's just a really lovely way of getting a sort of 3D shape quite quickly. So if I show you that in action, I'll use this nice bright green one. You can buy packs of them. Tulip is the brand, and you just type in tulip. And what's this? This is, you can get puffy, you can get metallic, you can get shiny. There's all different types of ones, but they're quite fun. But if you don't have any of this, you don't have to use it. You could just do sequins, you could do dots with a pen, you could actually hole punch holes and have like a negative space. That would also work. But I'm just going to show you how these work really quickly. So you're literally making a little dot like that. It's like icing. So imagine you're icing with an icing tube, but you can't eat it. That's essentially what this is. And I would just do a selection of dots in different colours just to border your cardboard, really. And I would probably add some sequins as well, but you get the idea, right? And you can see that it's sort of raised up. So that's quite fun. Kate's not happy at all because she's got a shiny back. So I'm going to stick this Mod Podge on there. So she's held down for a bit so she sticks. So yeah, they're super effective, those ones. They're quite fun. And I'm going to move some bits out of the way so we can sort of have a bit of a finished product in some way before we finish. So we'll use this guy because this one's been doing very well. We've got our lovely ribbon along the edge. We've got a few sequins. I mean, it's not as extra as this one that I made the other day, but hopefully I've explained the kind of process of it so you know how to sort of build it up. And so what I will do now is I will pop my Frida in there. I'm just wondering actually if I can, maybe she can go in this on this side. Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I don't want these sequins to fall out. I'm going to put them in, I'm going to put her on this bit, and then I'm going to stick some gems on this bit. I think that's a good idea. So we've got our sort of right angle on there, looking nice. This is the trickiest bit. I didn't like doing this at all. And unfortunately, because I'm silly, on the dolly one, what I realised is the reason that she's not stuck down very well is because I tried to stick it onto glitter. So again, here's a troubleshooting tip. Whichever surface you decide to stick your picture down with, don't do it on a glittery one, because it just doesn't stick as much, because it's trying to stick to glitter that can kind of fall off. So luckily this one is just sort of painted. So you're kind of placing it in. I've stuck a bit, oh, it's quite hard to see, isn't it? Let me just do that. That's a bit easier. So I've stuck a bit of tape on. I'm probably going to do a couple more bits of tape, but we'll start with one, and you want to sort of push it to the back, bring this down, and then stick it into place. It's really fiddly, but once it's done, it's done. Sorry, I know that that's not great for visibility. I'm just going to stick a nice big piece down for you. So it's done. So that's stuck down, but we've got a bit of excess tape there. So I'm going to fold that up so we can't see it. She doesn't want to stick. Of course she doesn't. That's okay. But you get the idea, right? If you stick enough tape down on this bit, then she should stay. Let me just do it one more time. You could glue it if you wanted to, if your tape wasn't working like mine. I think it's because I've got some excess glitter on this bottom bit. So if you clear out your glitter first, there we go, that's working now. So we've got the sequins on that bit. Oh no, she's coming off. Never mind. It worked the first time anyway. So we've stuck that down. So what we could do at this point is to get this. No, she's not happy at all, is she? Let's take her off for now so I can explain these bits. So along this top we could use some sticky gems, and the great thing about the sticky gems is you don't have to do anything because they come with the sticky on the back. So if I use one of these lovely big ones like this, done. Simple. Let's get some of the, is there any silver one? I could do the little silver ones along the edge like this. So this is quite fun because it's really easy. Maybe a couple of these sort of medium-sized ones. Bob. I don't have many colours of these left. If you go and buy yourself a new pack of them, they have loads of colours. You can choose which colour sort of range you want. There you go. And then maybe we'll finish with a couple of the blue, these little tiny blue ones I've got left. Oh yeah, I need to get some more of these, don't I? I really do. Well, everything's falling off now. This is what happens when you don't take your time and you don't let things dry. Let every single layer dry before you carry on. There we go. So now she's got some gems on. Perfect. So before I finished, oh, nearly at the end, I just want to show you very, very quickly. This one here, so I wasn't able to sort of get through the circular one. So this one isn't as 3D, but she is still sticking out. So what I would recommend for that is, and I've used these before, so these are like, they're like sticky pads that you put on your furniture so that they don't scratch your floor. But they're perfect because one side is already sticky and they're just the right amount of thickness to sort of bring something up. So all you would do is you would take one off and you'd stick it onto your picture. Sorry, I keep bashing my camera. And you'd stick it onto your picture in the middle like so. You can cut them down if you want. You just have to really try with your scissors. And then you'd put some PVA glue on there. And then that would go. So I know I wasn't able to do it, but like this green guy here, I would just stick that down like that. And then your you've made that image 3D, and then you could just stick some sequins around there, and that would be super effective. But again, we'd put the glue on first, we'd stick it down, and then we'd leave it alone so it was nice and dry before we did anything else to it. Because unfortunately, poor Frida does not want to stick to the things. But what I'll do very last of all, before I go, very quickly, is I'll just show you how we hang these up. So all I've got is some fancy ribbon. I've got some, in fact, I'm just going to cut it off so I can show you. It doesn't have to be expensive stuff. You could use normal string. It doesn't have to be ribbon, by the way. But you just get yourself a bit of ribbon. What's that? Kind of like 20 centimeters, 20 to 30 centimeters. And then all I would do is loop it up like this. I'd knot it, but what I would do is leave a gap. So let me show you. Do you leave an edge at the bottom here, and then you spread those two bits out so that both of them are getting some tape on. And then we're going to get a nice bit of the brown tape, or whatever tape. You can use whatever tape you wanted at this point. And then you're going to make sure that it's stuck on both bits of ribbon, because we want as much coverage as possible. And you'd stick that to the back of your box. Oh, or you could drop it. It's up to you. Get it in the middle like that, and then that's enough to hold up your box. And because we're not using super heavy boxes and they're quite small, that will hold up quite nicely. It is on a slight angle, but once it's in a Christmas tree or on a wall, in fact, you could sort of hang it anywhere and it would stay in place. So let's imagine that Frida was happily stuck in there, and that we'd add a few more sequins around there. You've got yourself a beautiful glittery sequin decoration, and hopefully these will look absolutely stunning in your Christmas tree. And you maybe stick some gifts in there if you fancied. And that's it, I think. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm covered in glitter, so I'm going to go and spend the next few hours cleaning up. And hopefully you enjoyed that session, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks with some more Christmassy stuff. I think I might do Christmas baubles, just standard decorated Christmas baubles. But if there's anything else Christmassy that you're interested in, please let me know, because I've got, I think, 2 more before Christmas. So we'll have to make them festive. Of course we will. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Rosie. My business is Rosie and Ramona. Ramona's my 5-year-old daughter, and she is at school, so she doesn't have to clear up the glitter. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon. Bye.